Dear students, I hope all the previous lectures are clear to you. So today we'll move on to the next paragraph. Mrs. Bostwick managed to get them all seated, although her husband had broken into another area, and then the maid brought in the soup. When she carried a plate to the professor, he cried in an excited voice, "Hold it higher, higher, I say." And springing up, he gave the plate a sudden kick that sent it nearly to the ceiling, from whence the dish descended to scatter soup over Bessie and the maid, and to smash in pieces upon the crown of the professor's bald head. At this atrocious act, the senator rose from his seat with an exclamation of horror and glanced at his hostess. For some time, Mrs. Bostwick had been staring straight ahead with a dazed expression, but now, catching the senator's eye, she bowed gracefully and began reciting the charge of the Light Brigade in forceful tones. Here we see that after the dinner gong, Mrs. Bostwick somehow managed to get all the guests along with her husband and the daughter seated in the dining room. Meanwhile, the husband has shifted from one song to another because of the influence of the magic bonbon. Just then, before the dinner, the maid brings the soup for all the guests. As soon as the maid enters the room, Professor, who was already under the magic of the bonbon, he cried loudly to hold that plate of soup, the bowl of soup higher, and jumped towards the plate and kicked it so high that it reached to the ceiling, and when it came back down, it was smashed into pieces. It was broken into very small pieces, and the small pieces of that dish broke upon the head of Professor, which was a bald head without any hair. At this undignified act by the professor, the senator, who did not eat any magic bonbons and is not under the influence of that magic bonbon, looks at the hostess. Hostess here is Mrs. Bostwick. He looks at the hostess because he is very much surprised and horrified at this act of professor. For a few minutes, Mrs. Bostwick, who herself is under the control of the magic bonbon that she had already eaten, she looked straight towards the senator. But after a few minutes, she herself bent down gracefully as if she is going to start a performance on the stage, and she started reciting the poem, The Charge of the Light Brigade, in forceful tones. Now, we'll move to the next paragraph. Next slide. The senator shuddered. Such disgraceful rioting he had never seen nor heard before in a decent private family. He felt that his reputation was at stake, and being the only sane person apparently in the room, there was no one to whom he might appeal. The maid had run away to cry hysterically in the kitchen. Mr. Bostwick was singing, "Oh, promise me." The professor was trying to kick the globes off the chandelier. Mrs. Bostwick had switched her recitation to the boy stood on the burning deck, and Bessie had stolen into the parlor and was pounding out the overture from the Flying Dutchman. The senator was now at all sure he would not go crazy himself. The senator was not at all sure he would not go crazy himself. So he slipped away from the turmoil and, taking his hat and coat, hurried from the house. The senator, who was completely surprised now, started shaking, started quivering with fear, because he has never seen such kind of undignified actions in a private family, in a decent family. And he thought that being in this family at this evening will spoil his own reputation also, because at this time he was the only person who was a normal person in the room. Sane means normal person in the room. He could not understand whom to talk to about this kind of chaos. Seeing such kind of abnormal behavior of everyone present in the room, the maid was also surprised. So she cried hysterically, very badly, and she ran into the kitchen in fear. Mr. Bostwick was singing "Oh Promise Me," and the professor was trying to kick the globes off the chandelier. That means everything was in chaos, everyone was in strange behavior. Mrs. Bostwick also has shifted from one poem to the other. That was "The Boy Stood on the Burning Deck," and Bessie stealthily, silently went into the parlor again, and she was trying to play the other music on the piano. That was Flying Dutchman. The senator was also in fear that in such kind of chaos, in such kind of agitation, disturbance, he will also go crazy. So, after taking his coat and hat, he hurried towards his house. We'll move on to the next paragraph. That night, he sat up late writing a political speech he was to deliver the next afternoon at Faneuil Hall. But his experiences at the Bostwicks had so unnerved him that he could scarcely collect his thoughts, and often he would pause and shake his head pityingly, as he remembered the strange things he had seen in that usually respectable home. The next day he met Mr. Bostwick in the street, but passed him by with a stony glare. He felt he really could not afford to know this gentleman in future. Mr. Bostwick was naturally upset, yet in his mind there lingered a faint memory of some quite unusual occurrences at his dinner party the evening before. And he did not know whether to resent the senator's behavior or not. The next day, the senator had to deliver a speech in the public, so the same night he tried to write the speech. But when he was trying to write the speech to be delivered in the public, his mind was haunted again and again by the things that occurred in the house of Mr. and Mrs. Bostwick. So he could not concentrate because he was not able to believe his eyes about whatever was happening in the house of Bostwick. So he was totally upset and he could not write the speech that night. Next day, the senator met Mr. Bostwick in the street by chance, but he gave cold expressions to Mr. Bostwick and tried to show as if he does not know him, and in future he would not like to know him anymore. Mr. Bostwick, who was himself very upset because of the behavior of the previous night, he could not understand, he could not decide whether to be angry at this kind of behavior of the senator or not, because he had some glimpse in his mind what actually happened the day before. Now we'll move on to the next paragraph. The political meeting was a feature of the day, for the senator's eloquence was well known in Boston. So the big hall was crowded with people, and in one of the front rows sat the Bostwick family, with a learned Yale professor beside them. They all looked tired and pale, and the senator was rendered so nervous by seeing them that he refused to look in their direction a second time. While the mayor was introducing him, the great man sat fidgeting in his chair, and happening to put his thumb and finger into his vest pocket, he found the lavender-colored bonbon he had placed there the evening before. "This may clear my throat," thought the senator, and slipped the bonbon into his mouth. A few minutes afterwards, he arose before the vast audience, which greeted him with enthusiastic applause. The political meeting was the most important feature of that day, so the big hall was crowded with a lot of people. And in this crowd, in the hall, in the front row, the family of Mr. Bostwick was sitting. As soon as The senator looked at them. He again felt nervous because their faces reminded him of all the things that happened the evening before. So again he started feeling nervous, and finally he decided that he will not look in the direction where all these people are sitting. And besides the Bostwick family, the Yale professor was also sitting. While just before the speech, the mayor was introducing the senator felt very nervous. And in this nervousness, when he put his thumb and finger into the vest pocket, suddenly he found that there was the lavender bonbon that he had already placed the evening before. So he decided to eat that lavender bonbon that time so that his throat could be cleared. And he put the bonbon into his mouth. A few minutes afterwards, as soon as he arose from his chair to deliver the speech, the whole audience, who was a great fan of the senator, welcomed him with a great applause. Now we'll move on to the next slide. "My friends," began the senator in a grave voice, "this is the most impressive and important occasion." Then he paused, balanced himself upon his left foot, and kicked his right leg into the air in the way favored by ballet dancers. There was a hum of amazement and horror from the spectators, but the senator appeared not to notice it. He whirled around upon the tips of his toes, kicked right and left in a graceful manner, and startled the bald-headed men in the front row by casting a longing glance in his direction. Suddenly, Claribel Surtees, who happened to be present, uttered a scream and sprang to her feet. Pointing an accusing finger at the dancing senator, she cried in a loud voice, "That's the man who stole my bonbons. Seize him, arrest him, don't let him escape." As soon as the senator got up from his chair to deliver the speech, he started saying that it was the most important occasion. But the next thing that he did was he started balancing his left foot and kicked his right leg into the air in the same way as is done by the ballet dancers. The whole crowd was amazed. Everyone was surprised to see the senator doing all this. But the senator, who is already under the influence of the magic bonbon that was of lavender color, did not notice anything, did not see that the whole crowd was surprised to see him doing this. And he continued doing the things. He was kicking his right and left leg in the graceful manner, and he started looking in the same direction where the Bostwick family was sitting and the Yale professor was sitting. At this strange behavior of the senator, the Claribel Surtees, who was also present in this crowd, she jumped from her seat and, pointing her finger at the senator, she cried loudly that this is the man who has stolen my bonbons. Arrest him right now, capture him, seize him right now because he is a thief. Now, we'll move on to the next paragraph. But the ushers rushed her out of the hall thinking she had gone suddenly insane, and the senator's friends seized him firmly and carried him out of the stage entrance to the street, where they put him into an open carriage and instructed the driver to take him home. The effect of the magic bonbon was still powerful enough to control the poor senator, who stood upon the rear seat of the carriage and danced energetically all the way home. To the delight of the crowd of small boys who followed the carriage and the grief of the sober-minded citizens who shook their heads sadly and whispered that another good man had gone wrong. As soon as Claribel Surtees started shouting by pointing the finger towards the senator, the attendants thought that she has gone mad. And They rushed her out of the hall. Senator's friends also understood that the senator is not normal, so the friends escorted him out of the hall and put him into a carriage and instructed the driver not to stop anywhere and to go straight home. The effect of the magic bonbon that was of lavender color and eaten by the senator, the effect of this bonbon was so powerful that the senator who was put into the carriage, who was put into the rear seat of the carriage, was still dancing, and all the way home he kept dancing. And the street children were enjoying this scene, and the normal people thought that one more citizen, one more good man has gone wrong, has gone mad. Next paragraph. It took the senator several months to recover from the shame and humiliation of this escapade. And curiously enough, he never had the slightest idea what had induced him to act in so extraordinary a manner. Perhaps it was fortunate the last bonbon had now been eaten, for they might easily have caused considerably more trouble than they did. Of course, Claribel went again to the wise chemist and signed a check for another box of magic bonbons. And she must have taken better care of these, for she is now a famous vaudeville actress. It took the senator a long time to recover from the shame, from the insult, because of the atrocious act of that day. But he did not have any idea, even the slightest idea, what actually made him to do like that day. But finally, the bonbons were over, and Claribel's search once again went to the wise chemist, the same chemist, Dr. Dawes, and again she signed a check for another box of magic bonbons. After getting all these magic bonbons, she kept all the bonbons safely for her own use, and later on she became a multi-talented actress. The lesson, The Magic Bonbons, ends here.